Worry, ma'am.
Do you know any of the staff here except Paul Davidson, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a student. I completed in 2013 BCA batch.
அப்படியா? But you didn't specify that in your resume.
I just mentioned only MCA.
Yeah, that's why. You should have done that.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not that proud to be alumni here.
No, I just didn't mention both the certificates.
Okay,
Sorry, degrees.
okay, nice. When was that? When did you study here?
2010 to 13 batch.
30. So, James, sir, Dr. James, you know Dr. James? Here.
I have seen him. He was not my staff at that time.
Okay. But he is the head of the department for BC.
Oh, okay. But at that time, I think Hari sir was there as a HOD.
Yes, yes, there is. Okay. You know Kasturi ma'am, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Paul Davidson, Olivia ma'am. We'll start. Shall we
Yes,
start?
ma'am. We can start.
You're ready with that. Have you
Hmm.
tested sharing your screen?
Yeah, just a minute.
Yeah, I remember this face.
BCA
இல்ல
sir
BCA ஒரு semester
அருகிலே சார் வந்ததுதாங்க நான் எல்லாரும்
Screen 3, ma'am.
Google search, Google search, Chrome page.
No, presentation share பண்ணிருக்கேன்.
Yeah, it's loading. Getting loaded.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we are able to see. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
So we'll start now.
Yes, ma'am.
Participants, kindly mute your audio and video. And also, need not give anything in the chat, but only at the end of the session, you will be allowed to ask any questions through the chat. Okay. Right. Good afternoon, everyone, for joining us for this webinar on PAAS. So the presenter or the resource person is our alumni who did his BCA during the year 2010 to 13. We are very
Yes.
happy, Mr. Vijayram, to have you with us.
Okay, ma'am.
And to be presenting such a nice topic to our students and staff. Thank you so much. And for the beginning, a well begun is half done. I request Mrs. Olivia Capitola, Assistant Professor of the Department, to start it with a prayer.
Let's go ahead with the prayer. Our heavenly gracious Father, thank you for the day you have given to us. Need your guidance, wisdom, and support as we place our work and ourselves into your hands. Bless our work and the webinar and the speakers and the efforts that we have taken, so that even the smallest task may bring you honor. Dear Lord, guide us when we are weary. Energize us. May the work that we do and the way that we do it bring hope, life, and courage to all. We ask these in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, madam. And I invite our head of the department, Dr. James, to present the welcome address.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a moment of great privilege and honor for me to extend a warm welcome to all of you at today's webinar. I cordially and respectfully welcome our principal, Dr. D. Paul Dayabaran sir, who has continuously supported us in all our efforts to spread the light of true knowledge. I welcome you, sir. With the honor, I would like to welcome such a noted personality as our chief guest, Mr. Vijayram, who is going to share his views about the PAAS. I welcome you, sir. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome the co-conveners, organizing secretaries, and students organizers who are an integral part of this event arrangement. I hope that today's inspires ideas and discussion around the ways that we can strengthen our knowledge in a better way. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. And now Dr. Kasturi, Assistant Professor in the department, will introduce the resource person.
I'm very happy to introduce today's resource person, Mr. Vijayram. Is a system engineer working alongside the infrastructure support team of QR Solutions. He is AWS certified person. He is responsible for managing and supporting cloud and on-premise systems. He is keep on learning new technologies to progress towards advancement of systems. He completed his master's degree in Shastra University in 2015. We are very happy and privileged to say he had completed his undergraduation in BCA degree in the year of 2013. He has worked for L&T Infotech prior to joining QR Solutions. Really, we are very happy to welcome Vijayram in this webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kasturi. Now, Vijayram, it's in your hands. You can take it.
Okay. Thank you to all my professors for the warm welcome. So let me begin with the presentation. So coming to cloud, so we are already a part of cloud. We are using many tools from the cloud. There are many examples, just like Gmail and every other product of Google. So you might think, what is something new which we will be learning today from this presentation? So in this presentation, I'm going to give you a practical example of how you can use PAAS in cloud if starting a business or for personal purposes. So just for the purpose of this presentation, I have included the list of cloud in the first few slides. So this is the agenda which I'll be following today. Okay, let's start with the basics of cloud computing. It's the on delivery of compute power, database storage, applications, and other IT resources for cloud service platform via the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. So, in my opinion, this is the simple definition of cloud computing. So, as you read this explanation, it says that all the regular services which we are accessing from a physical data center in our own premises can be accessed from a third party data center. So what is cloud in basic terms? Cloud is just like a network of computers which we will be accessing from a third party's data center. Cloud computing provides a simple way to access servers, storage, database, and a broad set of application services over the internet. So it simply states that we can use all the available services from the cloud for the data of our website. So in this slide, as you are seeing this slide, there are 4 types of cloud deployment models. So which you might be aware. So I will just give a simple explanation to every type of cloud. So in the case of public cloud, which any person or any general public has access to. Let's take the example of Google products, gmail.com and every other Google product like Google Slides, which we are currently using. Even for the purpose of this presentation, I have prepared the presentation using Google Slides. So we are already a part of using the various parts of cloud. So when we come to the next part, that is the private cloud. So private cloud is restricted to a particular group of people and organization. So let us take the example of an educational institution where there will be a physical data center inside the campus of the institution. So all the services such as accessing computer labs or the accessing the account softwares or the information of students, information of non-teaching staff. So all the information needs to be stored privately. So the public, general public should not have access to all the information of the institution. So in this case, we will be using private cloud. So all the data is private. So next, in the case of community cloud, it is used where there is a group of organizations under a single umbrella. For example, we have a particular education institution and there are 4 different branches of the institution in different parts of the country or different parts of the state. So in this case, we'll be using community cloud where access will be restricted only to the organizations which are located at different parts. There will be a centralized storage system or a centralized data center where only the designated organizations will be able to access the data. So as you can see in the image, hybrid cloud is a mixture of private cloud and public cloud, where certain parts of the data be available only to the private cloud. So only the users of a private cloud able to access the highly secure data, and the public cloud is open to general public. To explain this with an example, let us take the case of a simple website where the general public will be able to access the front page, that is the home page of the website, and the administrator and the login pages be restricted only to certain people from the organization. So it is a mixture of hybrid cloud. It's a mixture of private and public cloud, which is known as the hybrid cloud. So in this slide, I have listed the basic 3 service models of cloud. So there are different versions of services used by each organization and it will be innovated also. So technology is getting innovated and it's changing every day. So the service models can be adjusted according to the needs of the organization. So nevertheless, we have the basic 3 cloud service models as listed here. So I will be explaining each of these with an example, so it will be easier to understand what each service is playing in this model. So as you can see here, SaaS is software as a service, and it resides on the top level of the uh, pyramid, where it is the end product which a customer is using. For example, as listed here, we have Google Apps, Dropbox, Salesforce, Cisco WebEx, like that. So I see a person. Okay, so in the second level, I have the platform as a service, which we will be elaborately talking about. So in this level, we have the basic development tools which we will be using to develop a software or a website. For example, if we are developing a website, it will need the programming languages, the database setup, all the services which are running behind the setup of the website will reside in the second layer, that is platform as a service. So in the layer, that is the infrastructure as a service. So this is the base of any product launched on the cloud model. So in simpler terms, this is the physical data center where all the services data resides. So there are various providers of infrastructure as a service. For example, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, So as listed in this third box. So this is just the basic understanding of how the three services function in a service model. So in this slide, I have listed the different job categories or the users who will be accessing each level of service model. So the infrastructure as a service, which contains access to the physical data center, will be controlled and accessed by IT administrators, and a few people who will be provided exclusive access to. So in the middle layer, it will be accessed by software developers. So as I said earlier, in order to develop a website, we'll need programming languages, databases, and the designing files. So everything will reside in the second layer, and it will be accessed by software developers. So at the final product will be the end users, and it will be used by the general public or the users who have subscribed to a product. So as you can see in the final, in the end of the image, the control is more for an IT administrator, since he controls the base level of the cloud setup. So this is how the three basic models are associated in cloud. So now we have seen a little bit about what is the basic setup of cloud in theoretical terms. So as an individual, what does cloud mean to me? So I have this question: how can I address cloud being a traditional user of computing services? For example, we use desktops or laptops for our day-to-day purposes. So when it comes to cloud, how can I understand the different levels of cloud and how I use them to my advantage? So I have listed 5 points which are all interrelated, that how we can use the advantages of cloud apart from traditional computing. So let us say I have a website and it is being used by 100 users. So the bandwidth of 100 users is not fixed. So it may even increase to 200, or it may even decrease to 50. So when I host or serve my website from my own personal desktop, which is located at my home or at my office, so the data storage will be limited. Let's say we have 100 GB of data storage, and there is a sudden increase of users from 100 to 200. Then in that case, our local system or the workstation will not be able to handle the extra load. So the system may crash and the users may not be able to use the website. The performance will be reduced. So in the case of data storage, when we move our website to the cloud, the data storage can be increased as per need. The second point, the data security. So in the case of a local workstation, there is high chance of the data getting compromised. Let us say we are using external storage like USB devices to copy and data. So as you are all aware, using an external storage device has its own risk of getting virus into the workstation. So when we move our website to the cloud, the solution, this problem is addressed. The chances for compromising the website very less from outside. For example, we will not be able to directly change or manage data. We will not be able to directly upload any malicious software, since the cloud has own security features to block such access. So the third point is the infrastructure cost. So if you imagine uh, in your own office setup where you have about 10 to 20 workstations which are used to launch or host your product on the website. So as I said earlier, if the number of users suddenly increase, then you will not be able to immediately address the situation with a solution like adding more and more workstations or servers to balance the load of the website. So in the case of cloud, you have some advanced features like increasing the number of servers when there is load to your website. In the next point, there's the performance. So this point is closely related to the previous points. So if you don't have the adequate storage systems or the adequate servers to handle the load of your website, then it will be your product may end up in a failure, or your customers may become frustrated on not able to use the website according to their own need. So the final point, which is faced by every organization, licensing costs. So the frequent applications which are using day to day, like Microsoft Excel or the Windows operating system, are all licensed products. So we need to ensure that we keep upgrading them to avoid them from the latest security threats. So in order to do that, we'll have to spend more money to upgrade the products and maintaining them. So it is a highly costly affair when it comes to a large organization. So in the case of cloud, the servers provided from a cloud computing are all managed by the third party itself, where you don't have to pay separately for the license of the Windows server or the license of the additional licensed products like Microsoft Excel, which you may like to use. All the costs are bundled into one server, and you are from the headache of maintaining a separate physical data center or paying separately for licensing costs. So you are free to move to the cloud and manage the costs more effectively and spend more time on developing your product. So I hope you have an idea of how the advantages of cloud can be used to migrate from the traditional app to a cloud. So am I audible now? Is there any disturbances?
Yes, yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Okay. So as we have seen the personal level benefits of how we can use the advantages. So let me tell you some practical examples. So these are just the usual products which you are using day to day. There's nothing new, but still you can now really realize the advantages of cloud. Let us take the case of sticky notes. You don't have to carry your laptop everywhere, so you can easily save your notes in Google Keep. So you can log into your Google account and access the notes from wherever you are accessing. Similarly, the Microsoft products like Excel, Word, PowerPoint, so all of these traditional products have their own counterparts in the cloud. Example, Google Sheets, Docs, and Slides. So and we are all very much aware and we are using it day to day life like Google Drive. So these are few of the examples. So now I hope you have got an idea of how cloud can be advantageous. So you might have already heard of shared providers like GoDaddy or DreamHost. So you might have this question. So why should I move to the cloud when I have already hosted my website in a shared hosting server provided by GoDaddy or wherever or whichever third party you might have purchased? So I have personally faced this question while moving to the cloud. For example, I have a Windows server. Even let me take the case of this own laptop I am using. Since this laptop is controlled by an administrator, I will not be able to install all the required applications which I need to install. So this is the same case when you purchase a server from shared hosting systems. Access to applications will be limited. You will not be able to access the full power of a server. So in the case of purchasing a server from the cloud, like cloud providers, Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, you will have full control over the server. You can install whichever the applications you want. Let's say your website needs to install MySQL database. You can install it as per your need, and you can upgrade the MySQL version as per the updates. Or even if your website needs to migrate to MariaDB or some other database service, you can do so with your own full control. Since you have full control, it is more easier to control the activities of the server. So in the second point, pay for what you use. So this is the most popular one-liner that you might have heard when it comes to cloud. It is the pay as you go model. So as you might have heard in the previous slide, where you don't have to worry about a physical data center or worrying about adding new infrastructure to your website to handle the load. So cloud computing has some unique features to handle the load of your website automatically. So I will explain those in the upcoming slides. So the third point is also closely related. So you can increase the storage capacity of your server as and when needed and reduce it as and when needed as per the load of it. So all the last 3 points are closely related. So when I give you an example of how this can be utilized, you will get more idea. So now we have come to the prime part of the presentation, platform as a service. So this image will give you a clear idea of this service covered under platform as a service. So the physical data center, servers, network, storage, the operating systems and DB tools. So now since all of these are available under a single umbrella, you will be able to easily control these services and focus more on developing your product or website. So there are, as I said earlier, there are many cloud service providers. So I have taken the case of Amazon Web Services, which I am currently working in and learning more and more about. So AWS was started in 2006. So it has its presence all over the world. As you can see here, it has 24 launch regions and it is currently being served in 245 countries. So you might have heard of the term physical data center. So the physical data center is present in 245 countries. So you can imagine the level of performance with that much capacity of servers. So in this slide, I have listed the popular and the frequently used services which are required for a website to run. So if you think there any website will need a front end, a back end, a database, content delivery network. So in the case of front end, you will need a setup and programming languages like PHP or JSP or whichever you are using to develop your product. So I have segregated different parts like a data center, web server, database. So I will be explaining the relevant AWS service which are available for each category. So this is a very interesting information slide. Here in India, we have uh, three physical data centers of AWS. So all these data centers are available in India. So as you can see in the slide, an additional capacity was added on May 15th in 2019. So currently we have three physical data centers of AWS in Mumbai. So what is a region? A region is the place or the state where the group of data centers are located. So the group of data centers are known as availability zones. And finally, edge location. So when you are using google.com, which we are using every day, you might have noticed the speed of the website, at what speed the website will load. If you have noted the timing for each search query which you are searching. Example, here you can see that the search query resulted in 0.44 seconds, sorry, 44 seconds. So that is the speed of Google. So the same level of performance can be implemented in our own product also. This is achieved using technology known as edge location, where the same terminology used in a browser is used in a physical data center. For example, when we view a website, the website will have a local copy of its content in our local workstation, which is known as browser caching. So the same technology is used in cloud, which is known as edge location. So in order to run a website, we will need a workstation or capacity. So the first step is covered. So now we have purchased a hosting from Amazon and we have a data center. So the next is, for any website to run, it will need a web server. So while developing applications from your local Windows machine, you might have installed the application on XAMPP. It is a software bundle which consists of Apache, MySQL, Apache Tomcat service. So the same needs to be implemented in a cloud server for the website to run. So for the purpose of that web server, we have a service called EC2. EC2 is known as Elastic Compute Cloud. So it is the cloud version of the server which we are using physically. As the definition states, Amazon EC2 presents a true virtual computing environment, allowing you to use web service interface to launch instances with variety of operating system, load them with your custom environment. So most of our day-to-day lives and the functions are used in a Windows server. So when it comes to hosting a website on the cloud, all the setup can be done on Linux systems. So this provides multiple operating systems with which you can launch a server and provide our product to the customers. So the AWS management console. So this is the single dashboard using which you can access all the services from a browser. So that is the power of cloud, where you don't have to worry about each and every segment as in a physical data center. For example, I just explained to you about EC2. So this is just one among the 170 plus services provided by AWS. So you can keep upgrading your website or product with the advanced services provided by AWS. So let me get back to the presentation. So when you have a Windows or a Linux server, you can install your web server and you can run your website. So the second part is covered. Now we have a physical data center and a web server. You publish our website to the open world, and we can provide the product to customers or end users. So the next part is DNS, domain name system. So any website will need a domain name. Let's see example of google.com. Google.com is a domain name. Domain will consist of the IP address mapped in a domain name server. For example, let me ping google.com. So as you can see here, google.com is the domain name and google.com is mapped to a physical IP address. So from this you can learn that any website will need an IP address and an IP address needs to be mapped to a domain name. So that service is provided in AWS with a service called Route 53. Amazon Route 53 is a highly available and scalable cloud web service. It's designed to give developers and business an extremely reliable and cost-effective way to route the users to internet. So as I explained, AWS, this is a definition provided by AWS service. So as you can see here, www.example.com is mapped to the numeric IP address 192.0.2.1. So this is the basic requirement for any website for launching a website onto the open world. So now domain name system service is also provided by AWS. It is also covered. So the next part is a crucial part of any website. It's known as the database. So we are all familiar with relational database service, and the same is provided by AWS in cloud as a service known as AWS RDS. So now we can use the service provided by AWS to maintain a database completely in a separate environment. So as you can see here, it provides cost efficient resizable capacity while automating time consuming administration tasks such as hardware provisioning, database setup, patching and backups. So patching and backups is a very important when it comes to managing any workstation. So in the case of cloud, we are freed from the headache of managing the patches and backups. It is done automatically by AWS. So we are all quite familiar with MySQL, and these are all the other databases which are offered by RDS. Amazon Aurora, which is listed in the first, is a custom product provided by AWS. It is nothing but an enhanced offering of MySQL. So it has its own advantages apart from MySQL. So for the part of your whichever database you choose to use, we can select from the numerous options provided by AWS. So now the database part is also covered. So for any website will have the need to store audio files or video files or images. This can be done using the service called Amazon S3. In the case of a physical data center, you will need to store the videos and audio inside the same server and you will be launching your website. So this can be a disadvantage when you are planning to migrate your server to a different one. So in the case of cloud, AWS S3 is a separate service where you can store all your images and you can link your images to your website using links provided by S3. So as it's stated here, you can accomplish this task using the development console. It's a simple and intuitive web interface. So as I just displayed you the management console. You can manage each and every service from just a single dashboard. So which really simplifies the it really simplifies the work of maintaining your infrastructure setup. So now the storage part is also covered. So this part is the content delivery. Let us take the case of Netflix. So we are all we are all aware of the popular video streaming service Netflix.com. It is a large-scale company which has servers all over the world, and there are too many customers, as you are aware. So Netflix uses the Netflix uses the concept of content as is shown here. Yes. So content delivery is very essential for large scale website, for a website to load faster for the customers. So Netflix has its own product known as Open Connect. Open Connect is being provided by Netflix to all the internet service providers so that they can be installed in physical data centers. So the website loading time is very much reduced. So the as I have given you an example of content delivery, Amazon has its own service known as Amazon Cloudfront. It is a fast CDN service that securely delivers data, videos, and applications and APIs to customers globally with low latency. So this is the utmost requirement of any customer who is using a website. So let me give you another example. We are all highly aware of irctc.com. So it is a website which gets high load from any part of the country, especially during festival times where the booking and the rush to the website will be very high. So when such a large website is hosted on the cloud, then we can use the services of Amazon CloudFront or any other or service provided by any other third party to increase the performance of our website. So the content delivery part is also covered. So we are uh, nearing the final part where our website will be completely hosted on the cloud, and we can use the management console to control our website and monitor the performance of the website. So the final part any website will need is the elastic load balancing. So a large scale website may get additional number of customers or consumers at any time. There is no fixed time at which there will be more number of customers, or it's not so easy to predict. Let us take the example of a bank where the load rate will be high at the beginning of every month, where the fund transfers will be very high. So at that time, a website which is hosted on the cloud can use the services of elastic load balancing, where the servers will be multiplied according to the load of the website. So for an example, uh, let's have installed only one server for your website. So when the load increases, there is possibility of your getting hanged. So in order to avoid this, we can multiply the number of servers which are hosting your website. Let's say the number of servers is increased from 1 to 3, so that the website's load is balanced and all the customers be able to use seamlessly. So this setting can be automatically configured using the AWS management console. so that it will automatically take care of the performance of your website. You don't have to interfere manually. So once the load of the website gets reduced, the monitoring system will automatically reduce the capacity from 3 servers to 1. So it is now running with 1 server in the base capacity. So as I stated earlier, cloud follows pay as you go model. So now you have to pay only for the additional hours for which the additional servers were running. For example, if the additional 2 servers which I mentioned were running for 2 hours, then you have to pay only for those 2 hours only. So this is one big advantage of the cloud known as the pay as you go model. So now our website is completely hosted on the cloud. This is just a basic example of launching a basic website on the cloud using the common and popular services provided by AWS. So if you take the case of very large scale websites like Google or Netflix, they will be using more and more services from AWS or any other cloud service provider, so that their website is advanced and secure to the top level. So these are some of the cloud service providers, as I stated earlier. So we have come to the important slide where we have the notable disadvantages of the cloud. So these are just trivial points because as you see in the first point, no access without internet. Yes, it is true. We will need a valid and good stable internet connection to access these services since it's entirely on cloud. So we'll be facing the issue in a very rare manner as internet is abundantly used and there is very less possibility for internet connectivity to get lost. So the second point can be taken into consideration. The software vendor could go out of business. Since all the licensed softwares are provided as a bundle, the software vendors who are selling their products through the retail model may get hit. Their businesses may get hit since the number of customers who are individually purchasing the license will be reduced. So the next point, the performance issue with server. So even though the cloud has high capacity servers, it is all based on the decision of the management to spend on the servers, which is known as the costing management. So your management or your business may decide to reduce the capacity of servers, managing the cost at optimal level. So at that time, if there is no adequate capacity to serve the website, then the website may obviously face performance issues. So with regards to costing, this is one disadvantages of cloud. Point it cannot be taken into consideration, but still there are chances of a business taking a decision to move out of the cloud and go back to the traditional model, such as the physical data center. So even that is possible, but still it has its own disadvantages since we would have used uh, uh, separated services on the cloud like EC2, S3. Each and every service is separate. So when you come back to the model, you have to club all the data back to single, which will be a little problem while migrating. So this is one another disadvantage which can be considered. So I hope I've given an overview of the launching basic website on the cloud, and I hope you have something informational today. If you have any questions, you can, or any points to discuss, you can post in the chat. Anybody has any points to discuss?
Students, staff, if you have any queries, you can post it in the chat box. Vijayan, that was a wonderful presentation you have given there.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes, you used to be very
What is the
quiet
difference between Azure?
boy when you were studying here.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Yeah. No, I've never seen you, like going here and there or anything. You have been very quiet boy. Now, can you read a question from the chat box?
Yes, what is the major difference between Azure and AWS?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that is a nice question. So there are two different cloud service providers. So they have their own types of services. So as I explained to you, the name of the cloud server provided is known as EC2. So the server provided by Microsoft Azure will have a different name, and they will have different types of services. So as I said, AWS has about 170 plus services. So Azure has a little bit less number of services. So it's all based on the cost. Say you're hosting or launching a new website. It is up to the decision of the business or the management to select AWS or Azure based on the costing. So
That's
I have
more
one question.
difference between
Difference
web hosting.
between web hosting and cloud hosting. As I showed in one of the slides, shared hosting has very limited privileges. Let's say you have purchased a server from GoDaddy, it will have very limited privileges, or you will not have root access. So for installing any application or uninstalling any application, you will need administrator access. So that cannot be achieved from web hosting. Even there, we have many options like purchasing servers with root access. Even that can be done. So, as I said, it is all depending on the cost, which model which you are going to select. It may be web hosting or cloud server.
Any more questions?
Yes, both are long running reliable storage services. Yes, you are right.
Any questions, participants? Your feedback link will be sent in the chat box. You can send your feedback. Now I request Mr. Paul Davidson, sir, Assistant Professor of the department, to present the vote of thanks.
The essence of all beautiful art is gratitude. I express my profound gratitude to our principal, Dr. Paul Dayabaran sir, for encouraging and providing facilities for conducting this webinar. I thank our HOD, Dr. James Manogaran sir, for his moral support and guidance for this webinar. I take this opportunity to thank the resource person of today's webinar, Mr. Vijay Ram, System Engineer, QR Solutions, for providing his useful information and informative session on cloud platform. Thank you, Vijay. I also take this opportunity to thank the organizing secretaries, Dr. M. Kasturi, Mrs. Rachel Betty, Mrs. Olivia Capitola, and Mr. Sandana Sami for extending their support throughout the webinar. I thank our department staff members for their contributions towards the successful completion of this webinar. I thank the student organizer, Mr. Anwar, for his contribution in this webinar. I extend my sincere appreciations to the IT support of our college for providing necessary arrangements for smooth conduction of this webinar. Finally, I take this opportunity to thank all the faculty and participants from various institutions for your interest and participation in this webinar. Once again, I thank all for your cordial cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijayram, and thank you, participants. Your
Thank you very much,
feedback
ma'am.
link will be shared in your chat box.
So,
Vijayram, sir will call and talk to you later. Thank you so much for giving a nice presentation. I
thank you very much, ma'am. I feel really happy to connect back to my college and seeing you all again. Thank you very much.
cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Participants, you can stay online and give your feedback. Participants, your feedback link has been shared. You can fill in your feedback.